Welcome to Web3 Women, a podcast featuring women from across the globe who are builders, creators, thinkers, and educators of Web3. These ladies are ready to talk and debate the latest and current blockchain events. Get to know them. Let's dive into this next episode in season 2.
Hello, everyone. I am Maquiba Massey, and this is episode 2 of season 2 for Web3 Women. And today we have special guest, Nova Lorraine. And so, Nova, thank you for being here with us. Please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, do you want the long version or the short version?
That's right.
Okay, I'll try to come somewhere in the middle, like land somewhere in the middle. So, one of 6, and which I think very much shapes me because I have 4 brothers, and I was the first girl born in the family. So that was a fun journey. Caribbean born in Jamaica, grew up in Connecticut, went to undergrad and grad school at the University of Connecticut. Grad school, studied clinical psychology, got my master's there, went on to study fashion design at the Fashion Institute of Technology and graduated from there. And then went into interior design and high-end real estate before landing back in New York to launch my fashion label, which was a couture and made-to-order collection named after moi, Nova Lorraine. Very fortunate to have been recognized for my talents and have been awarded Best Haute Couture Designer of the Year, along with a Rising Star nomination 2 years in a row. I'm really excited to have seen my designs featured on The View, in Italian Vogue, and films and other TV productions. And it was about 5 years into that journey when I connected the dots and how I can help more people, especially creative entrepreneurs. And I launched Rain magazine. Initially, it was digital only, so I was way ahead of the curve. And so I guess I've been a futurist for a while, and just seeing what was coming, seeing the changing landscape in publishing and how people are consuming information and how they wanted to access information. And I wanted Rain, even though it wasn't a common thing, to be a magazine that lived online. I wanted it, 1, to be eco-friendly, and 2, I wanted it to for there not to be a barrier in these stories being shared globally. And so hence Rain launched back in 2007, and we're currently working on volume 40. And Rain has grown into a multimedia platform. So beyond the magazine and doing events, we also expanded into print as well, being in bookstores, but now we're print on demand and really focusing on our digital footprint. We moved into the podcasting space and launched our podcasting platform, Pink Kangaroo, which is a transformational podcasting network, which we produce and host both shows for other podcasters, but then our own in-house shows as well. One of those shows is AI for Creatives. That is really exciting for me because it allows me to, alongside my co-host Camila Sanders, just share where art, humanity, and technology is intersecting, and how we as creatives and entrepreneurs can stay ahead and continue to drive human-first solutions with emerging technology. So that's just one of the many shows on the network, and that's Pink Kangaroo with the U. Beyond that, I've authored a book called Unleash Your Supernova, and working on a second book called The Fashion AI and the Digital Age of Fashion, which is an intersection of the history of fashion and where we are with technology. And it was through Rain magazine that brought me into the world of Web3, the world of blockchain. And because we focus on the future of fashion, culture, and technology, and what those future stars are going to be, talents, gadgets, destinations, stumbled upon Bitcoin. And I did a story on Bitcoin, was fascinated, tried to get my hands on a mining machine. That was unsuccessful. 2 years later, we saw what happened. And in 2017, I decided to do another deep dive to look for what is that next blockchain that's going going to really be a strong use case, and came across several, but really landed on Ethereum as my blockchain of choice.
Mm.
Decided to invest in Ethereum, and a few years later decided to start really getting involved in crypto as a day trader. And what that allowed me to do early in 2020 was to really dive into the world of white papers, which are the business plans of these emerging technology companies, and to see what industries they're impacting and partnerships that they're developing, to understand the semantics, because it really was a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
Also see what was going to stay around for a long time. And the more I dove in, the more I realized that we were on a paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, why isn't everyone talking about this? And so I just wanted to really delve in because I saw the opportunities and the possibilities, for entrepreneurs and creators. And as a fashion designer, the successes and that I had from a marketing standpoint, and going from a showroom to a physical store was also really exciting, but there was always this challenge to scale, and
Mm.
the
Okay.
way that I envisioned anyway, because I
Yeah.
really wanted to scale globally as a designer. And
Mm-hmm.
so I saw blockchain as an exciting opportunity for a couple of reasons. One, it would allow many entrepreneurs and individuals to get into a space, reach their consumers directly, but
Mm-hmm.
then also be able to take advantage of these new technologies and create new revenue streams and opportunities and ways of telling stories. And one of the stories that excited me surrounded tokenization and fashion, in
Mm-hmm.
particular couture, because that was a space I lived in, and I see couture as the fine art of fashion. So
Okay.
it was fascinating, looking at tokenization, looking at NFTs
Mm-hmm.
and decentralized organizations. And that really just led me down the rabbit hole of not just researching and trading, but moving into advising and consulting into this space, moving into speaking and educating in this space.
Yeah.
And on that journey, I realized that I couldn't stay outside the bubble and just look in from a theoretical standpoint. I wanted to work with the technology. I wanted to use and build with the technology. And so from working the within a decentralized organization,
Mm-hmm.
aka DAOs,
Yeah.
to launching my own NFT collection.
Mm-hmm.
No experience, just dove in and said, I'm just going to learn this and do this. And
Yeah.
an incredible team helping me. And then moving into developing immersive spaces with technologies such as Unreal Engine 5.
Mm-hmm.
And during that process, I stumbled upon generative AI.
Mm.
And so for over a year now, I've been using generative AI tools and really getting familiar with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And now I speak and educate on AI,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a technology that's going to disrupt life as we know it. And we're
Yes.
already seeing it, how it is impacting and infiltrating various industries and job functionalities and workflow processes and operational systems, and it's only going to continue. So I felt that it was so important to understand it,
Yes.
to not only get excited about it from a creator standpoint and what it can do and helping me bring my ideas to life, but to really study it from a perspective of how it's going to impact the future of work, how it's going to affect the creator economy, how
Mm-hmm.
it's going to potentially change our lives, our personal lives as well. And so that's moi. That was, I guess, not the mid length. That's probably the longer version of the story. But so I hope that answered the question.
It did. It certainly answered the question. A lot to unpack. And so we're gonna comb through it just
Okay.
a bit to take a real deep dive into who you are. And so you mentioned a various or a multitude of companies that you've maybe started or different segments and things that you do with those different entities. So House of Nova, you also have Lore, Rain, NFTs, right? And so there's all the different entities that are things that you do. And so, can you tell us maybe why you shared this along the way, but maybe hone into one specific one that you may find of interest or two, and maybe share with us more specifically why you created that particular entity and what exactly does it do?
Yeah, I love that question because I've been on this entrepreneurial journey for a couple of decades. So I've been planting a lot of seeds along the way. So I would say House of Nova is where I want to focus on, because it really encompasses the majority of what I do right now. And
Okay.
3 areas of focus under the House of Nova is fashion, phygital, and for those that may not know the term phygital, it's
Mhm.
digital fashion and physical fashion, bringing
Oh,
those 2 worlds together.
okay.
House of Nova in general is what I call the future of couture, and where we're using emerging technology and merging that with art to really use this medium to raise consciousness, to create impact, to inspire, to empower individuals. And so that first pillar is the phygital fashion, as I shared. The
Mhm.
second pillar is around education.
Mhm.
I am super passionate about access. Being an immigrant here to the U.S., being the first generation to go to college, having taught at various levels of school, from primary, I've taught at the college level, and I know how, with the right knowledge, you can change lives, not only your own life, but others.
Right.
And so education is a second pillar that falls under the House of Nova. And then the third pillar is community. And
Mhm.
that community is about connectivity, it's about sharing, it's about support, it's
Mhm.
about growing, and most importantly, it's about well being, because we need each other,
Mhm.
to keep us grounded, to be that cheerleader, to be that investor, to be that partner, to be that best friend.
Right.
And I do believe businesses of the future and projects of the future have to be built around true community,
Yeah.
honest community, authentic community. Because as we move forward in this digital age, we're going to continue to crave what makes us more human. And
Mhm.
what's going to set us apart from technology? It's each other. It's
Mhm.
being able to sit across the tables, to be able to hold hands, it's be able to share a cup of tea or matcha,
Yes.
and so community is such a strong focal point of the House of Nova.
Mhm.
And because my background started in clinical psychology and I went
Mhm.
on to get trained in mindfulness,
Mhm.
I see how important it is to really understand how we operate, from a mindset perspective,
Mhm.
how our sense of self really directs us and guides us in the world, and how important it is for us to continuously find ways and tools to allow us to create balance within our lives. And as entrepreneurs, our business life, and we put that in quotes,
Mhm.
really blends in to our personal life. And I
Yes.
see an entrepreneurial journey as really being a journey of personal growth. And you
Mhm.
need to succeed at that to succeed at the other.
Yes, absolutely. And I especially love the education piece of it. I'm in higher ed, and so that certainly resonated with me. But what hit me even more was the community aspect, because even with, figuring out like this was the space that I wanted to be in, the Web3 space, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one doing this. And then I stumbled across Black Women Blockchain. I'm just like, nope. Olinka has created a whole nother,
Yes.
organization where it's a community around that. And so I'm happy to know that you've created that space in that community so that people can know, who look like you. I'm I'm not the only one doing this. And so how can we build, grow, and learn together? And so I think that that's absolutely fascinating. Um, you have, though, doing this for a decade, right? And so you are certainly true to this, not new to it at all, but you have been coined as the metapreneur. What
Oh, oh
exactly?
yeah. I was like, yes, I am a part of the metapreneur community.
So you've been coined as the metapreneur. What exactly does that mean to you? And again, you kind of spelled this out a little bit for us, but is there anything in particular about House of Nova or the other entities that you've created? What exactly does Betterpreneur mean? And what are you doing in the Web3 space to really build that sense of community outside of House of Nova?
Yeah. So metapreneur, my interpretation, is someone that's building and creating within the metaverse space. So then we have to say, well, what is the metaverse?
Yes.
And I will define it as the future of the internet. It is the environment that we enter into, that experience, and it is more immersive and dynamic. And so we've seen some early iterations with spaces that are modeled on top of engines such as your Unreal Engine and Unity. And we've gotten a taste of that. We've seen some pixelated worlds as well. Those that are gamers have been in, metaverse spaces for years, and these more immersive environments that are digital. And so those entrepreneurs that are creating technologies, platforms, products, and services within this more immersive digital environment, the world, so to speak, that encompasses other technologies. When you're looking at an immersive space, you can have the augmented reality and the virtual reality as part of that. You can have blockchain technology as part of that. You can have AI embedded within it. But specifically, it's this more immersive environment that you'll be entering into and engaging in and being educated in and shopping in when you go online. Now, in terms of community and what I'm doing, specifically, I'll start with inside the House of Nova, which is the House of Nova Collective. And it's a community built on 3 pillars. You see like a pattern here with 3. It's easy to remember, right? But it can't just be one. So anyway, so under the House of Nova Collective, it is about community building, specifically female entrepreneurs and creators that are on a journey of growth. They are impacting a community. And I've created the collective to provide a supportive, intimate environment to accelerate that growth. And so we're coming together for fun. We're collecting digital fashion and art. So we're touching the technology. We're learning about it. We're coming together to increase our well-being. We're having fireside chats, expert-led fireside chats around conversations that help us improve mental, social, physical, financial well-being. And last but not least, education. We need to be aware of what's coming, what's around us, what are those opportunities, what are those challenges and obstacles. So we are empowered to take action that's going to move our businesses forward and move our lives forward. So that's what the House of Nova Collective is. Super, super excited about it. You can find us on LinkedIn, the House of Nova, and there is more information about the collective that gets you access to how you can apply to be part of the collective and join that. So that's that community. The other community is my general social media family, I will say, that I really enjoy sharing my knowledge that I come across in the Web3 space in general, inspirational information to motivate individuals to never give up. And then, of course, my fashion and art. And so I create fashion. I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I'm excited about, this particular piece. Yay, this is Endless Summer. This I designed around a story about a character that I'm writing about, a fictional story. And this is her in her human form. So she's a chameleon. And it's about how do we stay true to who we are while still fitting in. And so we're not isolated, from the immediate community that we're in. And this piece was selected by Lamina One, a newly launched blockchain earlier this year, co-founded by the author of Snow Crash, which was the inspiration behind, the Metaverse movie that was out, and this whole concept of the Metaverse. And so this was one of the first 10 NFTs to be minted on the blockchain. So really excited about this piece. It's an example also of my digital fashion and art. I really look at fashion as art and how it can, improve lives, change lives, empower us as we wear it, but then also as we see it. And so I really enjoy continuing to grow and cultivate a community that's interested in learning with me and taking these journeys across the globe with me, that appreciates fashion and art and what it can do to our soul. and is looking for inspiration, is looking for nuggets of information that they can take away and feel empowered to move forward. So I share with the intent of empowering individuals, of helping them grow in some way, of giving them information that they can use to move forward in one way or another. And so that's the community that I'm
Right.
building around my social media presence online, in particular LinkedIn.
Okay.
I do some Twitter live, Twitter spaces. And
Mhm.
then that's just added to the community that I've developed over the years with Rain Magazine, and
Mhm.
the community that is, those fans of audio content, and the community that I've been building around my podcast via Pink Kangaroo, the
Yes.
podcast network. And so that's the community building. I feel that we all have an innate desire to be part of a tribe,
Yes.
and we can be a part of multiple tribes.
Yes, we can.
And so, because we're multidimensional, right? We have our tribe in our home, our family. Then there's a tribe outside of our home at work. And then there might be a hobby or a sport
Mhm.
or a club. I was at an acting class last night, and I have a new
Oh,
tribe there. So, yeah. And I think like this is what's going to continue to be desired and
mhm.
craved,
Yeah,
as we live more of our lives and interact more digitally.
for sure, for sure. That was so beautiful. I wouldn't even know where to begin or start. The details that was amazing. Oh my gosh. So yes, AI for creators for sure. But speaking of Rain Magazine, because you just mentioned that, you have this expertise that not many people have, which is the art of storytelling. How does the art of storytelling and your expertise in this particular area play a role into what you do and how you represent not only yourself, but just your community as a whole?
I would say, it's interesting because, as we move from our schooling into our career, we get these titles. And
Mhm.
I've always felt a little uncomfortable with just one title because I feel like it puts us in a box, so to
Okay.
speak.
Okay.
And then we evolve and we grow. And, I've always been proud to wear the title of fashion designer because, like,
Mhm.
yes, because
Yeah.
I'm so passionate
Yeah.
about creating and
Mhm.
designing with the medium of fabric.
Right.
But I also am an artist, and as you shared, a storyteller. And so if I had to boil it down to one word, I would say I'm a storyteller. And how do I tell stories? I tell stories through different mediums of
Mhm.
art. And what are those art forms? And those art forms exist in the form of fashion, writing, speaking, podcasting,
Mhm.
performing on stage,
Yes.
and creating, written stories or audio stories. And these are the various forms of art.
Mhm.
But I think it's something that is just innately in me. I truly am an observer. I
Yeah.
love watching people. I love figuring out their backstory. I love observing nature and science. I
Mhm.
started in the sciences. I studied the sciences for
Yeah.
so many years. And,
Mhm.
I went from your, hard science to your social science, and
Right.
then bringing that into the space of art and media and entertainment and publishing. And I feel that storytelling is something that's so personally connected to us as humans. It's how
Mhm.
we pass down history, it's how we pass down lessons, it's how we learn,
Mhm.
and we look at other stories for inspiration. And
Right.
so it's such a unique part of what makes us human.
Mhm.
And for me, it is a way to inspire people and empower them, and in a very sticky way. And
Yes.
so I just think when I see storytelling, I see it as creating these images
Okay.
and emotions that
Mhm.
touch you, that
Mhm.
move you, that propel you in one direction or another. And I feel that I am here in life to serve others in a
Yes.
way where I can use my art forms
Mhm.
to that I love to help others do what they love.
Mm,
Because I believe that if you're doing what you love around the people you love in the environment that you love, like what else is there?
yeah.
Right? We would have so much less mental health
Yes.
distress and
Yes.
issues, and so much less violence and aggression in the world,
Absolutely.
and states of living that are just unacceptable. If we are truly understanding how connected we are with each other, and I think that's where these stories come into play, where we can see those connectivity points,
Right.
and we can be more compassionate and giving,
Mhm.
and we can share more of ourselves and be more vulnerable. And
Absolutely.
so I hope that and strive for my stories. May
Mhm.
they show up as fashion designs, may they
Yeah.
show up as art, may they
Mhm.
show up in the form of performance or speaking or books,
Mhm.
that they move and inspire individuals to rise higher in whatever area that they're in.
Gotcha. I like that. But so speaking of outlets and ways that you can share your story, and we can maybe put it back on the board, the AI for Creators podcast, right? You have this podcast, and I've kind of gone on. And so if you haven't already, please subscribe, you all. It's phenomenal. Like, there's topics that you have talked about in regards to AI for creators. Is AI going to replace creators? AI in education, the economy? There's all these different topics that you and Camilla have spoken about. And so I just want you to maybe share with us something that has came up in conversation with you and Camilla, that maybe we don't know, or maybe some things that we should know, and start to like look out for in regards to AI.
Yeah. So there is an episode coming out this week.
Okay.
um, you know, I'm an optimist. So
Yeah.
when I share information, I look at the positive side of things, even if we bring awareness of the potential negative or dark side. And we try to do that in the podcast. We try to enlighten our listeners on what to be cautious about,
Okay.
and what we're striving for ultimately, because I believe that if we have the intention with this technology to use it for our benefit, for our health, mental, physical, social, emotional health, then that's what we're going to create. That's the environment and future that we're going to create. And so we talk about that in our newest episode and what's coming. I feel that there is not enough attention being put towards the ethics around AI
Mm,
and the disruption that's going to happen across industries as it relates to jobs.
mhm.
Because when you're talking about a number of 300 million,
Yes.
these are people
Mm,
that are, when I say 300 million, let me just back up. So um, BBC has reported, amongst other outlets, JP
mhm.
Morgan, that 300 million jobs will be affected
Yeah.
and or replaced by AI.
Mhm.
Now, in what way? You can go through the port
Right.
and dig through it. Some
Mhm.
may just be new job titles.
Mhm.
Um, the World Economic Forum put out that there would be, I believe, 83 million or 85 million jobs created, and or lost, excuse
Okay.
me, and 97 million created. And so this was a few years ago that the World Economic Forum put that out there. So the net result was more jobs created than lost.
Yeah.
But when we look at the numbers of 300 million individuals, let's just call them
Mhm.
individuals, will be impacted
Yeah.
by AI, will one of those numbers be you or
Mm,
someone else in your family or your
yeah.
friend circle? And
Yeah.
so you need to start asking the questions now. Well, how will these jobs be impacted? And
Mhm.
how can I future proof
Right.
myself
Mhm.
as we move forward in this very
Yeah.
near term?
Yes.
Because if we're projecting 5, 10 years out, that's a long time when you're talking about AI, for example. We've seen what happened in a matter of 6 months.
Mhm.
And if we aren't prepared, then we can be impacted negatively.
Right.
And so I feel that educating ourselves around the technology, touching it, using it to get a better understanding, and
Mhm.
then if you choose to, have a seat at the table, share
Mm,
your voice, share
yeah.
your opinion,
Yeah.
share, that you want this to protect
Mhm.
or grow or help, but in a positive way. If
Mhm.
we have a very small percentage of individuals that's creating the technology and creating the intention of how it will be used, the majority will be at the disadvantage.
Yeah.
And so I feel that it's to all of our benefits to understand what's coming. And we do talk about this in our new episode of AI for Creatives. what's coming? How will it shape healthcare? How will it shape education? How will it shape the creative arts? How will it shape the legal field? How will it shape the social sciences? And then it goes on and on and on. And some things may lag behind others, but will your industry be at the front line?
Right.
And so if you're not digging deep, if you're not reading, if you're not understanding from reliable sources, mind you, then you may be taken by surprise. As a parent, how are you preparing your students in middle school and high school? I mean, I have Camila, her 11-year-old is already using ChatGPT. She kind of came in one day and she was like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm using ChatGPT." And like, she's 11. I'm just saying, like, it's out there, and we could turn a blind eye, or we could sit down and have these conversations with
Right.
our children,
Yeah.
and have these conversations around ethics
Right.
and humanity and creating solutions to benefit us. Because if we're just playing, right? Let's just think about it. You give it a room full of toddlers boxes of tools,
Yeah.
hammers,
Yeah.
screwdrivers, saws, and you just say, "Here you go, bye,"
Yeah.
and you leave them with those tools. And just figure it out or have fun, play around.
Yeah.
A good amount of them may get hurt
Yes.
or will get hurt. But if we teach them how to use the tools and say, "Oh no, don't break the glass with that hammer. Here's a nail. Let's build a house with this hammer." And so these technologies are tools, and we can mold and shape how we want the tools to be used. And I think that is what's so important. It's not to scare people. It's saying the world is changing.
Yeah.
Our industries are changing. Technology is a big part of that. It's here. It's not going anywhere. So how can we, have a balanced, productive, happy future?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Knowing that these technologies are here and continuing to advance in front of us.
Absolutely. That's certainly important because we are certainly going to be at a different place a year from now, even 3 months, 6 months from now. So everything is constantly changing. So how can we move along and be the forefront of the movement, right? But so given your knowledge in the AI space and the Web3 space, how do you perceive them to be different? Because some people say, well, what's the difference between AI and blockchain? I feel like they're the same. But what's the difference between the two, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, AI has been around for a while. Let's just put that out there. And if you've had an iPhone and use Siri, if you use Google and Facebook and all these other, AI has been powering these algorithms behind the scene, even with creative tools such as Adobe tools, tool suites, Canva, if you're a Canva user. Generative AI has been what has been put into the hands of the public.
Right.
So the public can touch and feel and play and create and build with artificial intelligence. And this is what's changing the landscape. And I see AI as being under the larger umbrella of Web3. We've had the iteration of Web 1, Web 2, where our social media platforms were born, where Google and AOL, if any of you remember AOL, some stayed, some went by the wayside. MySpace, oh, that's dating me. But just saying, it was a player for a minute.
Yeah.
And your social media platforms, your Facebook, your Instagram, and your TikToks of the world. And now we have immersive technology. And so AI fits into that toolbox that encompasses the future of the internet, Web3, which, if you're looking at the internet, most of us are looking at 2D, websites, two-dimensional websites, photos and text that scroll. And then we're going to be, in the near future, as we mentioned earlier, about the Metaverse, moving into 3D environments that are more dynamic and immersive, that can and cannot, that may or may not be built on blockchain. And so, blockchain is the way of storing that information where it doesn't change.
Yeah.
And that can be, we see NFTs and cryptocurrency as use cases, smart contracts, for example. And then, that fits under, again, this umbrella of Web3, the next iteration of the internet. So I see, AI is just one lane. The metaverse is another lane. AR, VR is another lane, and so on and so forth under Web3.
Perfect. Last question before we get into the lightning round that I have for you is, as a Black woman, Caribbean woman, in this, what some people would call to be a new and emerging space, although we know AI has been around for quite some time, blockchain too, but not as immersive as it is now. But for some people, there's this new space. And as a Black woman, in this new and upcoming space for some people, what were some of the challenges that you had, and how exactly did you overcome those?
Great question. I think the challenges are the same, may it be in Web3 or Web2. I would, well, I'm going to take that back. I think the extra layer in Web3 is that I believe that there is this layer, the language barrier,
Okay.
right? So, and we're getting much better where we're not using so much jargon and semantics, but I think initially there was a barrier of language. Just as I was reading white papers, I was like, what is
Yes.
this? What are these terms that I'm reading about? I don't know the node and the blockchain. And I was like,
Yes.
what is it?
Yeah.
And I had to like look up the terms. I had to watch
Mhm.
videos. I had to read blogs and really study the space. Like I was in school. I had to learn this whole new industry. And I guess it's like anything. If when I transitioned from my master's in psychology to going into the arts, such as fashion at FIT, that was a whole new world. And prior to getting into school, I bought a bunch of books and I studied these books. I studied the history of fashion, I studied its terminology. And so I think that's an initial barrier because
Okay.
I feel that a lot of individuals, women and individuals of color,
Mhm.
maybe from within the Caribbean diaspora or not, technology can seem as if it's over there, it's
Yeah.
for others, for one reason or another, maybe access due to education or access due to the language. Because even if you're reading a website around blockchain, how much of that are you going to take away and understand the very first time you read it? And
Yes.
so I think that was an initial barrier.
Mhm.
It's still very male dominated.
Mhm.
And so most of the panels I sat on and the talks that I did
Yeah.
were, just men
Mhm.
led or, dominated. And so, which, I'm used to being one of in a lot of the spaces I move in.
Mhm.
But to see and understand that we're building this new city was what I call this new paradigm,
Mhm.
and for so many people to be left out of that conversation was concerning. And because you can't build a city with just engineers or
Yeah.
just plumbers or just electricians. You need as many diverse talents as possible to build a city that's truly sustainable, that has the strongest foundation. And
Exactly.
so if we don't have enough individuals of diverse perspectives
Mhm.
helping build this new paradigm, then
Mhm.
again, there's going to be some issues that we're going to all have to pay for. And we see the result of where social media has taken us for good and bad, where you have suicide rates at
Yeah.
all-time high
Mhm.
and mental health issues and rates at all-time high. So these are things that we have to look at and say, okay, well, here's where things didn't go so right. And
Mhm.
this is what we could do better. And so for me, I just push forward. I try to look at any quote unquote challenge or obstacle as a challenge. But I do feel that, if you're new coming into the space and you don't really see anyone that looks like you, and
Mhm.
maybe you're a musician and you're like, well, are there any other musicians in the space? You may feel that it's not for you. I think that just push forward because there are more and more individuals that are entering to the space that are diverse voices and perspectives, may it be artists and or Caribbeans and or women.
Mhm.
And that's really exciting to see. But we need to continue to have communities such as your community, the Black Women Blockchain Council, and events such as this to
Mhm.
increase awareness,
Right.
to build a community,
Mhm.
to have an access point. Like, where do I even start?
Mhm.
And I started from a trading standpoint. So it was like, oh, this would be fun.
Yeah.
And I started doing that with, someone that I knew. So I had a partner and I
Mhm.
had someone to bounce ideas off of. So,
Yes. Yeah.
going back to the whole concept around community and having that tribe, it's so important for us to feel welcomed as we come into a new space. And so I think that, for me, it was my personality that helped me move forward because I had such a bigger mission. I really wanted to help others learn and get access to what I was learning and understanding. And so I was like, I'm going to speak. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to build because I need to help other people know what's going on. But if that's not your personality, find someone that you trust. Find a community or an organization that you trust. And then reach out to them and ask them, well, I want to learn more. What do you recommend? Or can you connect me with someone? Or what are other events that you have coming up? But the main thing is to do something, to get involved, to educate yourself, to learn, because we could turn a blind eye to it and just be consumers.
Gotcha.
Or we can empower ourselves with the education and be creators and innovators and active participants.
Yep. Be in the forefront of it. That's certainly important. All right. So as we're coming up to the top of our time here, I like to move into a lightning round, which is questions that we ask everyone essentially who is a guest to the show. And so you can answer these questions as concise, maybe one word or sentence, if you will. But are you ready? Get started? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So first question is there any particular book, YouTube channel, Twitter, or social media handle, maybe even a clubhouse, that you think would be wise to follow to stay updated on all Web3 or AI things?
Oh, a book. I would say that's a challenge because they're very specific right now.
Okay.
So where it's just focused on the metaverse. But in terms of podcast, I'm going to say AI for creatives and crypto for creatives, where we do talk about all things Web3, from NFTs to blockchain to DAOs. And we interview founders that are building and creating in the space. So you can hear from other creators and innovators and have individuals that you can reach out to as well. So crypto for creatives and AI for creatives, because I'm really sharing this information out of a passion for education and access through education. So those are both on the Pink Kangaroo, and that's Kangaroo with a U podcast.
Got it.
Network.
Thank you. Thank you. So if there was one technological tool in the blockchain space that people could learn, what would you choose to learn and know first? Is it NFT, Metaverse, smart contracts, anything? What would you say would be the first place people should learn?
I would say to think about whatever it is that you love doing. And is there a problem that you feel you would like to solve with that personally? And then which of these tools can help you solve that problem? Because if you do that, you're starting from a place that's interesting to you personally. You're going to be more motivated because you're going to solve a problem that's personal to you or a family member or someone that you care about. And you're going to do the work to find the tool, understand the tool, and then see who's applying the tool. Or maybe you may choose to apply it to a new idea or venture. So I would say is there one that I would recommend? I think it should be individual and should be personal, because I think that's where you're going to get that first doorway to open. So for me, my personal journey was through blockchain and the form of finance, crypto, which I was looking at. And so from that finance journey, it brought me into decentralized organizations and tokenization. But they were all something that had a personal interest to me for a problem that I wanted to solve. And it helped me get further along in my journey and understand it in a sustainable way. I would also say, apart from that, and understanding, because when you understand what smart contracts and blockchain can be used for, you then can say, oh, this is how I can apply it to my world of medicine, my world of agriculture, my world of fashion or beauty. So, for example, but then I also would absolutely encourage everyone to understand in the most basic sense, what is AI? What are the different forms of AI? How it's going to impact our future, and then how it's going to impact your specific industry. And so I would say across the board, educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself, because that is going to be a fundamental game changer for all of us.
Okay. Thank you. Last question. Where can people find you if they wanted to reach out directly or simply just follow your journey?
Yeah, so I'm primarily on LinkedIn these days. I do have other platforms on, of course, or a presence on other platforms such as Twitter and
Okay.
Instagram. So at
Okay.
Nova Lorraine on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on almost all your platforms. And on Instagram, it's the real Nova Lorraine on Instagram, the real Nova Lorraine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Nova. This was very insightful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people online that are saying good morning. So
Oh, good
good
morning.
morning to you. There were no other particular questions, but thank you so much for being a part of the show.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good one, everyone.
If you are enjoying our program, throw your support by donating to our Gitcoin grant. You can go to explore.gitcoin.co and click Web3 Community and Education and search for Web3 Women.